Hello everybody, I'm Catriona Morten, I'm a sensory-motor psychotherapist, and today I'd like to talk to you about resistance and working with resistance. Before I jump into it, if you're enjoying these videos, then give us a like, subscribe to our channel, because it really helps us get the word out there. The more people that see these videos, the more people that we can help. So, what do I mean by resistance? I get a lot of clients that come to me that have had previous therapists. Sometimes they've had a lot of previous therapy. Sometimes they've had a lot of therapists. And I'm not daunted by that at all. And often the message that people have been given, sometimes the therapy's been great and it can only go so far. And then they need to kind of find a different therapist to do different pieces of work. And that's great, that's normal. But sometimes therapy just hasn't worked for some people, and often the message that they'll be given, and I know this because people tell me, is that they're either being difficult or they're not really serious about change, or they're not really taking the therapy seriously. And it can really make people feel that they're completely unfixable, that there's nothing that can be done, that they can't be helped, that there's something really wrong with them, that they really are broken. And I hear this every week. I hear this from so many different people. And it's a really awful thing to be left with, that worry, that belief that actually we can't be helped. Often when I start working with these people, what comes up is some kind of resistance at some point. I don't want to go there, or I can't do that. And the way that I work with it with people is that we really acknowledge that. When I'm working with somebody and we encounter a little bump of either just a bit of pushback to me, or an avoidance of doing something, changing the subject, or going off in a completely different tangent, how does it feel in your body? Oh, I was just remembering, I don't. Oh, okay. And I can feel that kind of shift in energy and change. Or if someone says, you know, if I offer up an experiment and say, okay, well, how about if the breathing's constricted, say, let's just put our hands on that place of constriction. No, I don't want to do that. Now, there's something really in that. And so instead of that being seen as a barrier, and sometimes what a lot of people have encountered is when they have a reluctance or a resistance to doing something, that's a problem, because that thing is going to help them, and so therefore they're not helping themselves. They're putting barriers in. The way that I work with that in a session is being really curious about that. Okay, so there's a bit of resistance to that, and there's maybe a part of you that doesn't want to do that. I wonder what that's about. Sometimes people have grown up and they've had to be really self-sufficient. They've had to learn to self-soothe, they've had to learn how to look after themselves. Sometimes they've had to take responsibility for everybody in the house. That there's no cavalry coming for those people. They're on their own, they've got one way of doing things. And they develop coping mechanisms to help them deal with that. And if that coping mechanism is learning not to trust anybody, I can't trust anybody because these people are untrustworthy. Either they've been let down, or they've been harmed in some way, or they've been given a lot of negativity. Then they learn how to manage things just themselves without outside influence. And when that happens on the outside, we take that in on the inside. So if help has been unhelpful or detrimental, then when we offer help to ourselves, so say we've got constricted breathing, okay, well, let's just see what it's like. No, I don't want to do that. When we can look under that and say, okay, well, I wonder what that's about. And sometimes I'll use the mirror neurons, which are, if you're watching television and somebody gets a punch in the face, everybody goes, oh, we haven't had a punch in the face. Sometimes we've never had a punch in the face. We won't have a clue what it feels like. But our mirror neurons tell us. They react. That's how guided imagery works, because we're imagining something and we're actually having that experience of it. So I can say to someone, okay, well, that's brilliant, great you know that about yourself. But can we be curious about what maybe lies underneath that? Because it could be something that's just getting in the way of you receiving support, receiving any kind of nurture. And just say, is that a pattern? Is that anything that sounds a bit familiar for you? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Okay, well, let's just look and see what happens if I put my hands on that place of constriction that's the same place as it is in your body. What comes up for you when you see me do that? That can be really revealing. Oh, I can't look, that's it. No, there's something. It just makes me feel really uncomfortable when you do that. And being able to just go down in the layers. Can you identify the discomfort? Can you sense into it? I wonder what that discomfort's about. And then you can start really making sense of that present moment experience, that resistance, the reluctance to do that, as making that connection to experiences that they've had in the past, to start making sense of it. My whole thing is always, nothing's a problem. There's a reason behind everything. That thing isn't the problem, it's been a solution to a problem at some point. The real issue lies underneath that. And so, if I'm in a session and I either hear or I feel some kind of pushback or something very dismissive or something that's just trying to keep me away, I'm not going to take that personally. That's something that's just come up. If I take it personally, it's like, oh, maybe they don't think I'm a very good therapist, or, they don't seem to want to work with me. I'm not the expert of them. What I'm doing is helping them peel back the layers, uncover all the things that lie underneath. Why are things like that difficult? Because they'll be affecting other areas in their life. Relationships, friendships, just being able to take care of themselves. So, they're coming to therapy because these things are problematic. The resistance and the kind of reluctance or the fear, because it's always fear that keeps us away from these things. Or it's really served ourselves well in the past, so I don't want to give that up. You don't have to give that up. You can have that, but be able to have a choice about maybe having some nurture, having a bit of contact, having a bit of closeness, because it could really enrich your life instead of minimising and taking away and limiting your experiences. It can add to them. And so the resistance and the reluctance is always a really big clue as to something that's playing itself out, that's going on. I'm there, and so I'm the person that's going to be, on the end of this and sensing into it. My job is to keep myself out of the way. This isn't about me. I need to be able to be curious about what lies underneath that for that client. Sometimes when it comes up, we can be expecting it and say, okay, and we try and really make it a part of the session. My thing is always, whatever shows up in the session is welcome. There's no wrong thing that the body can do or your head can do. There is just what comes up. And that's the stuff that we work with. And when we can be really accepting of it and really welcoming of it, oh, there's your resistance again. Sometimes we can kind of work with it with humour. It's like, whoa, it's really good at its job, isn't it? Woo, I just really felt that pushback. Your resistance is really good. It's obviously been really, really necessary. And it can help that person have a better relationship with the resistance, because now they have an understanding of why it's there, where it's come from, why it's served them well, why it feels so difficult or fearful to have that threatened or have that taken away from us. And for some people, their only tool, their only way of being able to manage anything was from anger. Nobody would hear them unless they got really, really angry, or the only thing that kind of got them out of a stuck place was when they got angry enough to go, right, that's enough, that's it, I'm done. Well, we can use that. Nothing should be demonised. They're all parts of us. But if they're problematic, then we have to find a way of working with them so they're not working against us and causing us problems, but they're a part of us that we understand, that we have control over, that we can be observant of it. Oh yeah, there's my resistance coming up. I know what that's about. I've dealt with the fear that lies behind it now, and I can do something else. When we have that sense of discomfort or that fear, then we have to be able to notice where it is in the body. How does it affect the body? If it's fear, does it make us shrink, disappear a little bit, hide, go very, very still so nobody can notice us? When we can recognise the way that these things operate within the body, then we can find things to regulate it, resources to help it, to help us feel more strong and to be more visible and to be taking up more space instead of shrinking and disappearing. Then when that resistance or the reluctance comes up, we know the fear that lies behind it, we can deal with the fear. So instead of avoiding it, we can step into it and say, oh no, I actually can do this. I can have a different experience. I can have someone being close to me. I can have someone paying me a compliment or doing something nice for me. Because often a lot of people who can't have nurture, in sensory-motor terms, we call that a nourishment barrier. We can give to other people, all those things are possible for other people, but no, we've got that barrier up and it's not for us. And that can feel and sound like resistance, when in fact there's fear that lies behind it, and a way of being that's had to be there because of circumstances growing up. Not of our choosing, it's just the way that things are. We're really, really adaptable. Whatever the situation is, we'll adapt coping mechanisms to deal with it. A way that you can work with this yourself is, when it comes up, first of all, recognising it. Why don't I want to do that? What's my resistance to that? Why is it I'm going to talk myself out of X, Y, and Z? Being really curious about, I wonder what is behind that. That's serving a purpose. When I think of going to do this thing, what shows up? What do I believe about myself that makes that really difficult? What is it that I'm afraid of that might happen? Look underneath it, really flesh it out. Instead of it just being, oh God, that's just me, I always put barriers in the way and I don't want to do that. I wonder why I don't want to do that. I wonder what could lie behind that. When we acknowledge it's a real thing and we know it's been a solution to something, it's not the problem, it can really help us soften our attitude towards it. I wonder why that happens. When we can do that, it just allows us, instead of it kind of stopping there, looking behind it, looking underneath it, looking around it. Even if nothing comes up at the time, these things can start to percolate. I wonder what that is about. Being really observant of ourselves. The more we can observe what we're doing in the moment, the more we can be curious as to why. Listen to what our head thinks about that. Listen to what our body feels about it. If we imagine doing that thing, how does your body react? It can be a big clue as to what the problem is or what the resistance is actually about. Is it trying to protect you? Has it not got the message that actually the things that caused it to be there in the first place are no longer there? Those things don't apply because we carry them forward and often they become so procedural. It's like, no, ugh. What words would go with it, ugh? If I see those expressions in people's face, I'm like, I'll show you what I just saw when that happened. And it also introduces a bit of humour with it. Is that when you see me pull that face or do this to something, you go, I'm fine with that. What description would you give of what I just saw? And they're often extremely accurate. The more we can just be observing, curious, wonder what that's about, what lies behind it, instead of we're just a problem, it just allows so much more growth, so much more expansion, so much more curiosity about ourselves. We don't have to be stuck with these things. And when people come in and they tell me that, they've had 4 therapists and they've never been able to work with this. When the resistance shows up, bang, it's like, I wonder if that was it. And we just find a way of working with it. Yeah, your resistance is really welcome. Your angry part is really, really welcome. I know it's not going to do anything to me or do anything here. It's just a way of either avoiding or putting people off, keeping people at a distance. There's always a purpose. There's always something. It's like, well, I wonder what purpose that serves. I wonder how that's, kept you safe or done its job really well. So it's as much a part of us as everything else. It's just how we work with it and the way that we respond and react to it. And if I'm having a response or a reaction to something, I have to be curious about that. I wonder what that's about for me. It's now, could be playing itself out. It's just about being curious. Try not to be so judgy about things. Try not to make your mind up about things and go, I wonder what that's about. It can really help. So I hope any of that resonates with you. It's been helpful and useful. And if you've enjoyed this video, then give us a like and subscribe to our channel. I look forward to seeing you again really soon. Bye.